Welcome. My name's Gordon Shields. I'm the Global Commercial Marketing Manager for ultra-low temperature freezers for Thermo Scientific. Today it's my pleasure to talk about our line of ultra-low temperature freezers, both our standard performance as well as our TSX top-of-the-line units. Thermo Fisher Scientific has been in the business of designing and manufacturing ultra-low temperature freezers for over 50 years. Many of our customers will recognize Thermo Scientific and Revco as some of the key legacy brands. In 2011, we launched the first touchscreen ULT in the world, the UXF. Following along several years after that were improvements on the TSX and performance lines, and then 2 years ago, we launched standard performance. So let's now talk about refrigeration designs. The traditional design for ultra-low temperature freezers was what was called a single-speed compressor system. Essentially what this means is the unit will either run flat out or be shut off. So if you think about a unit at a minus 80 set point, if the unit warms up warmer than the minus 80 set point, the compressor system will come on and run flat out until we reach minus 80 and then shut off. The profile of the temperature looks somewhat like the sine wave on the left here. So you'll see a temperature that will rise and fall depending upon how the compressor systems are running. So you'll get some variation in the interior temperature of the unit itself. It is still a very efficient design and works very quickly and reacts quickly to door openings and warm product. More recently, we've launched newer technology called a variable speed or V-drive compressor system. The difference here is that the unit essentially runs 24/7. But it will ramp up or ramp down depending upon demand. So if there's a load put on the unit, for instance, a door opening or warm product being placed in the unit will spool up from an RPM standpoint, run flat out until it reaches set point, and then will spool back down again to a point where it's running at lower RPMs, essentially adjusting to the demand that's put on the unit itself. What that does is it creates that graph that you see on the right-hand side, which is more like a sine wave as well, but flatter and more spread out. And ultimately, that equates to greater uniformity in the interior of the unit. We get less temperature variation with a variable speed compressor. We also get more efficiency and lower energy usage. The biggest game changer recently in ultra-low temperature freezer technology is the introduction of hydrocarbon refrigerants. If you look at the older refrigerants used in ULTs, while they were very good at creating cooling power, they were very damaging to the environment. Most recently, the so-called green refrigerants or hydrocarbon refrigerants, ethane and propane, create zero ozone depleting properties, greater than 50% reduction in CO2 emissions. So while many people focus on the fact that hydrocarbon refrigerants cost less to operate, or more importantly, is the impact on the environment. The other thing that we talk about with regard to hydrocarbon refrigerants is the fact that they run at lower temperatures and lower pressures. This puts less pressure on the refrigeration system, which ultimately means greater reliability. It's one of the key reasons that we've been able to dramatically increase our warranties since we introduced units with hydrocarbon refrigerants. So if you look at the chart, you can see a significant reduction not only in energy usage from one unit to the next, but also a significant reduction in overall CO2 emissions. So it creates a real win-win, a lower cost both from an environmental impact as well as a lower cost in energy usage. We talked before about how critical the refrigeration system is. In addition to that, the cabinet design is also a critical part of protecting precious samples. When we look at both our TSX series as well as our standard performance series, we actually utilize the same cabinet. There are different sizes depending upon the series. On the TSX series, we actually go from 400 box capacity all the way up to 700 box capacity. On our standard performance units, we go from 300 box to 600 box, so 30,000 samples to 60,000 samples. When we look at that cabinet itself, what's critical first is we do the entry into the unit itself. We have a very comfortable handle. It's an ergonomic handle with a nice comfortable grip as well. The door opens on heavy-duty hinges. And as we look at the unit itself, you'll see this wall here. So this is where the insulation is. This is one of the critical things to help protect the samples. In the old days, the walls needed to be very thick because we were utilizing foam insulation to get the R value or insulation value. Today we use what's called vacuum panels. They're much thinner that have the same or better R value. The importance of that is that we're now able to get much more storage in a smaller footprint. We all know how critical and expensive lab space is, so being efficient in utilization of lab space is very important. The sealing surface here is called the breaker, and that seals against this gasket here. So we've got a 4-point gasket that seals very well. We want to make sure we've got good sealing all the way around. We want to minimize any kind of air leakage that's coming in and out of the unit itself. We can see here that TSX utilizes 2 inner doors. As I open that inner door, we can see the inside of the unit. The inside of the unit has shelving. Those shelves are adjustable. They're set up to line up with the doors, but they can be adjusted depending upon what's being stored. So we can see here, when we look at the racking that's in here, there's actually 6 racks wide. So this indicates this is a 600 box unit. These inner doors are magnetized and close very comfortably so that we get a good seal here and protect those samples. And then in closing the door, you want to hear that good clunk. And now we know the door is closed. As we look at the back of the unit, there are a couple of key features to be able to point out. One is each unit comes standard with 2 access ports. The reason why this is important, if you're adding additional probes for temperature monitoring, you don't want to run them through the gaskets themselves. You want to run them through these particular ports. These are insulated, have insulation running all the way through them, and then plugged as well. That protects the samples. It also does not create any kind of gaps in the gasket that can create then leaks and temperature excursions. There are a couple of additional features that I want to point out on the back of the unit. One is the electrical connection here. So here's your plug-in, and you notice there's a plug as well as a bracket. This bracket is important because it helps secure that plug from being inadvertently pulled out. Notice here is your on-off switch. This is the toggle switch. So when you start the unit up, you toggle it to the on position. In addition are 2 outlets that provide data to outside systems. One is a 4 to 20 milliamp. The other is a RS-485. As we talk about Thermo Fisher Scientific ultra-low temperature freezers, what's critical to understand is that no matter whether you purchase the standard performance unit or the top-of-the-line TSX units, you're never compromising on sample security. All units are designed for protection of samples. That is our #1 goal in the design of these units. When we look at our RDE or FDE or TDE series in the standard performance, these units are powered by H-drive. So this refrigeration system is designed for quick recovery after door openings, good uniformity, low energy, low noise. As we move up to our TSX unit, this uses V-drive. V-drive incorporates additional benefits from the standpoint of greater uniformity, even lower energy usage, and some additional features that are built into the unit. Our top-of-the-line TSX series comes in 4 sizes: 400, 500, 600, 700 box units. 700 box is the largest unit available in the marketplace today, still in a very compact footprint as well. Some of the other features to point out on the TSX unit is a very large interactive display, and we'll go into more detail about that display a little bit later. In addition, all of the units are Energy Star rated, so they have the lowest energy profile of any of the units that we have in our portfolio. This is again important, showing our dedication to the sustainability aspect of the unit. All TSX units also are connected to the cloud. So through what we call device link connectivity, what this allows you to do is actually send information to the cloud and monitor what's going on with your unit remotely. So I can look at a smartphone or an iPad and actually monitor exactly what's happening with my unit. Finally, and probably most importantly, is our industry-leading warranty on the TSX. All TSX units have what we call a 5+7 warranty. What this means is that for the first 5 years of the unit itself, everything is covered, parts and labor. So bumper to bumper warranty. And then for an additional 7 years beyond that, the compressor system, the heart of the system, is warranted for parts as well. So that means for a total of 12 years, the compressor system has a parts warranty. This again, nobody else in the industry can do this, and it shows our commitment and confidence in the reliability of these units. The TSX series uses what we call V-drive, or variable speed. This is newer technology, newer compressor technology that actually adjusts to the load of the unit. And when I talk about load, what I'm talking about is how much stress is put on the unit. Typically, stress is induced through door openings or loading of product in and out of the unit itself. The way traditional units work is they're either on or off from a compressor system, as we've talked before. With V-drive, it adjusts again to the load. What this really means is it allows for much greater efficiency, so lower energy use. It also means that we have tighter uniformity, so tighter temperature uniformity within the unit itself as well, because that unit is, instead of coming on and shutting off, it's adjusting to that load. So it gives a very, very efficient and consistent temperature profile to the unit. So here you'll notice that the unit itself is running without any kind of load on it. You've got a nice sine wave. It's running consistently and providing a good, consistent interior temperature. This would indicate door openings and the unit warming up and then coming back down. The compressor speed is now ramped up, pulls the unit back down, another door opening, pulls it back down, and then eventually we'll get back to a sine wave. So we introduced the concept of a variable speed compressor. This graphic helps to illustrate exactly what's going on and comparing to a standard compressor that's only coming on and off as opposed to adjusting to the load. So if you think about normal running conditions, the compressor system is running at lower RPMs to maintain temperature. If some sort of load event happens, like a door opening or warm product being placed in the unit will cycle up and run at maximum speed to get down to temperature and then come back down to normal running condition. So this creates a situation where lower energy is required. It's adaptive to the load. We lower operating costs and we increase sample security. I spoke before about the technological changes in the refrigeration system, specifically using hydrocarbon refrigerants and the advantage of hydrocarbon refrigerants. The TSX series with V-drive uses those newer refrigerants, and really what that means is an incredible savings, both for the environment as well as from an electricity standpoint. Older units used as much as 30 kilowatt hour per day, so as much as a small home. With these newer units, we're now down under 10 kilowatt hour per day. So not only is that an amazing energy savings and cost for a facility, it also is much, much better on the environment. We're putting out less carbon dioxide, we're not impacting the ozone layer. So these are much more ecologically efficient as well. One of the other advantages of variable speed technology as well as hydrocarbon is the noise level. Many of you can appreciate that have been working in labs in the past that ultra-low temperature freezers are very loud. In fact, in many cases, it means people put them out in the hallways or down in basements because it's such a distraction as far as the noise. This unit's actually running right now. It's running at less than 45 decibels, which means I can speak in a normal talking voice and not be distracted by the noise of the unit itself. So the interactive display on the TSX is a 7.5-inch screen, and you can see very good visibility. It's a touch screen, so it's much like your iPad or your iPhone, so very sensitive to the touch as well. You can see the display here from a distance. Also notice this green heart. The green heart will change color depending upon the alarm condition or what's going on with the unit itself. Green indicates that everything is okay. If it turns yellow, that's a certain alarm condition. And then if it turns red, that's a higher level of concern. Typically then, potentially some of the samples might be at risk, and it takes a more urgent approach if you see a red heart. Notice that we have the time. It's recording the time as well as the date, and we've even named the unit Frosty. So there's additional things that we can take a look at with this unit. As we look at it here, we can look at our settings, and we can actually go into each one of these and set alarms, set users, set the display information. I can then look at what's called an event log, and this will give me a history of what's happened with the unit, any alarm conditions or potentially door openings or other events that have taken place. We then can look at the alarm settings themselves. So right now we can see where the warm alarm is set, where the cold alarm is set, the door timeout, which means that the alarm will not go off of the door for 3 minutes in this case. We can set the unit in either what we call full access mode, so anyone can access it or make changes to the display, or secure mode, which means that it would be then, you would need a passcode of some sort to be able to come in and make any changes to the display. And then finally, this is the area where we can download data, and we'll talk about that in more detail and take a look at the kind of information that you can see through the download. One of the great things about this new technology is the ability to actually download and analyze data. If you think about older units in the past, if there was a problem with a unit, the only way to really diagnose was to pull it into a shop, tear it apart, and take a look at it and try to figure out what's going on. Those days are fortunately behind us with this technology. What we're able to do is actually download both what we call event and temperature data, key components of the unit itself, and put that into an analyzer tool and diagnose what's going on with the unit. It's very simple to do. First of all, I'm going to remove this USB cover. I'm going to go into this log area here, and notice I can set a date range of 6 months, 3 months, 1 week. Typically, we like to download 3 months of data to get trending data as well. I want to change from a CSV to what we call a PUC file. That file type is the best from an analyzing standpoint. Then it's a matter of me just simply putting the USB into the unit itself. You see it flash, so I know that it's now registered, and I'm going to export that information. It will export the data. We're taking readings of key components, 1 reading per minute on temperature data, and then any event data, door opening, alarm conditions, whatever it might be. So we're downloading that 3 months of data, and then later what we'll show you is what that produces. With the downloaded data and putting it into our analyzer tool, we're actually able to diagnose any issues very, very quickly. The graph illustrates different components on the top right-hand side, different component temperatures. If they go outside of parameters, we know that there's an issue. On the bottom left, we can look at the graph and look for on% trending. If over a period of time we start to see the compressor system operating at a greater rate, then we know that there's probably an issue. It could need to be defrosted, could be a leak, could be an issue with the system itself. So this system and this analysis allows us to diagnose units and very quickly find out what's going on without going to the site, and it will save time and will save money for all of our customers. Okay, let's now move to the standard performance units. And remember what we talked about before is that no matter whether you buy a standard performance or TSX, you're never compromising on sample protection. So the units are designed to be able to robustly handle door openings and any kind of actions that you're using with the unit itself. The difference, however, is partially in design. These units use a single speed compressor versus a variable speed compressor. So there are some differences in performance and slightly higher energy usage as well. We offer these units in 4 sizes. So in the standard performance, we start at the 300 box capacity. So it's a very small, narrow unit for tight spaces or small amounts of samples. 400, 500, 600. So we go between 300 and 600 boxes. The units are also designed with different components as well, interior components, and we offer them in various legacy names, RDE, FDE, TDE, and HDE. The difference that we'll talk about later is really just interior configuration. Otherwise, the units are exactly the same. Finally, these units use a less sophisticated display, so less featured display than TSX, but for those that don't need all those features, very simple, easy to use, easy to read display. So with the standard performance units, we actually offer 2 different versions. One is a general purpose version, which is utilized for most applications. We also have what's called an FDA Class 2 version. That's used for customers that are storing blood or blood products. So for instance, a blood bank would typically want an FDA Class II unit. Additionally, we want to talk about the warranty on these units. In the past, older units typically would have a 1 or 2 year warranty. Because of our testing and confidence in the reliability of these units, every standard performance unit comes with a 5-year bumper-to-bumper parts and labor warranty standard with every unit. One of the key differences when we talk about standard performance between the various models is interior configuration. And when we talk about interior configuration, what I'm talking about really is inner door and shelving. So you'll notice that this unit, this is an RDE unit, has 5 inner doors, okay? And what that means is it's lined up specifically with the shelving in the units itself and the type of racking as well. So RDE and HDE are all 5 inner door units. FDE and TDE are 4 inner doors. So really what this means is if you have an older unit that is a 4-shelf or 5-shelf configuration, it's really just a matter of purchasing the unit so you don't have to buy all new racks. It makes it much more compatible and makes that transition very easy from older unit to new unit. So when we look at the standard performance display, you'll notice it's very, very simple, not near as sophisticated as the TSX, and yet at the same time, great information, easy to utilize as well. It is a touchscreen like the TSX as well. You can see from a distance the temperature, and you can see it just changed from -79 to -80. We have the green heart here, which is saying that the unit is healthy. If there's an alarm condition, it would go yellow, or a more dire alarm would be then going to a red alarm as well. Changing any kind of parameters, set points, is a matter of hitting this little gear. I can set warm alarm, I can set cold alarm, I can use an offset if I'm using an external probe and I want to correspond with what's going on with that external probe. I can also then use a 3-digit set point security, which would mean I couldn't change any of these displays. So again, very, very simple, quick to use, and great information included in the display. So let's do a side-by-side comparison of standard performance and TSX. From a refrigeration standpoint, standard performance uses a single-speed system with hydrocarbon refrigerants. TSX uses the V-drive, variable speed with hydrocarbon refrigerants. And we talked about the advantages of V-drive with regard to lower energy and better uniformity within the interior of the unit. From a user interface standpoint, the standard performance unit uses a smaller capacitive touch display with less features. TSX has many features that are available, including the USB download. When we talk about connectivity, TSX is the only unit that comes standard with Device Link, which allows you to remotely monitor what's going on with your unit. Standard performance only operates in high performance, where TSX gives you the ability to operate in both standard or energy savings mode as well as high performance mode. So it's your choice. With regard to Energy Star, only the TSX units are Energy Star certified. It doesn't mean that standard performance are not energy efficient, but they've not gone through the Energy Star certification process. Cabinet designs are exactly the same as we talked about. From an interior option, the TSX has 2 inner doors with 3 stainless steel shelves. The standard performance units, you have a choice of 4 or 5 inner doors or 4 or 5 shelves. From an option standpoint, they all carry the same options: liquid nitrogen, CO2 backup systems, chart recorders. All of those are available. The one additional feature that's available on the TSX is the HID access card system. This allows you to use a card system to be able to identify who's gone in and out of the unit and to actually open the door. So that's an option that's available. Finally, the difference in warranty is significant. The standard performance units have a 5-year parts and labor warranty, where TSX has not only 5-year parts and labor warranty, but an additional 7 years on the compressor system. Let's take a look at the comparison between the H-Drive Information Center that's on the standard performance unit and the V-Drive Information Center that's on the TSX units. So as we take a look at this, we can see that both units are capacitive touch control, though from a feature standpoint, TSX has many, many more features and is full screen, a larger screen. Set point controller available on both units. As far as run modes, there's only high performance on STP, and on TSX you have the option of both standard or economy service as well as high performance. Set point security is available on both. As we get into some of the special features that are available on TSX, things like user profiles are only available on TSX. Event and temperature logs are only available on TSX for visualization on the screen. HID card access is only available on TSX. USB download for the user is only available on TSX. Cloud connectivity is only available on TSX. And then as far as any systems or backup systems and accessories, those are available on both units. Let's talk about the difference in performance that you can expect between a variable speed compressor and a single speed compressor. First of all, I want to remind everybody you're not compromising on sample protection. These are basically nuanced differences, but in some cases they might be more important depending upon your application. If we look at a single speed compressor system, it's going to operate at slightly higher energy profile than a variable speed. The variable speed is more efficient because it's running 24/7 and can ramp up and down to demand. The variable speed system will actually provide better uniformity because of the fact that it's running all the time, so you'll have a tighter temperature profile on the interior of the TSX versus a standard performance unit. Comparing that to a unit that comes on and off in a single speed system, the single speed system will have a slightly better recovery after door opening. In a standard 600 box unit, that might be 2 minutes, quicker recovery, but because of the fact that that unit comes on and runs flat out, rather than ramping up and down, it will have a slightly better door opening profile. Other than that, most of the comparisons in operation are going to be very, very similar. Very similar noise profile, heat rejection, and other key parameters. But just remember, if you are a validated customer and someone that's looking for very tight uniformity, likely the TSX is going to be the product of choice for you. So now that we've talked about the units, you may ask, well, which is the right product for me? And hopefully some of that information has come through as we've described the different operation. But generally what we talk about with customers is in general research or clinical type applications, standard performance is a great unit. Remember, we're never compromising samples. We're never compromising the integrity of the samples that you're storing in these units. But you may find that these are the units that work perfectly well for you. You want a simple unit that's easy to use, that's going to protect your samples. In many cases, we find pharma, biotech, or even biobanking will gravitate towards the TSX because they're looking for tighter uniformity, might be working in a regulated environment where that's critical. Energy Star might be the requirement as well, the lowest energy profile. Information flow from the unit itself may be something that you believe is worthwhile. Connectivity, so the ability to connect to the cloud. These are things that the TSX offers that are not offered on the standard performance unit. So it's really your choice in picking the right product for your specific application and need. Thanks very much for your attention today. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our line of ultra-low temperature freezers. The other thing I want to mention is in addition to the units themselves, we also offer monitoring products. So if you're looking for independent monitoring, which is critical in many cases for critical products, we have SmartView Pro, which is a wireless monitoring system. We have Insight, which not only is monitoring, but also provides an element of predictive failure, so we can determine that something is going wrong with the unit in advance. Our IES service company does not only basic wrench work or service work and preventative maintenance, but can also provide a higher level of services like validation and even what we call now smart connected services, which means on our TSX unit, we can monitor what's going on with the unit for you, identify any problems, and make sure that your samples have the ultimate in protection. So thanks again. We appreciate it and have a great day.